studying the Torah, but not willing to follow it all the way through to its intended, desired end result, then your endeavor will be one of frustration and lack of fulfillment. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4, the Torah portion, Nitzavim. Let's go to the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy, chapter number 30, and begin reading with verse number 1. And it shall be when all of these words come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the nations where Yahweh your Elohim drives you, and shall turn back to Yahweh your Elohim and obey his voice, according to all that I command you today, with all your heart and with all your being, you and your children, that is, your family, is making a turn. Then Yahweh your Elohim shall turn back your captivity, and shall have compassion on you, and shall turn back and gather you from all the peoples where Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. We have been driven, we have been scattered. Verse 4, and if any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under the heavens, from there Yahweh your Elohim does gather you, and from there he does take you. Consider the verbs here: being driven and being scattered. This is the idea of our exile. Do you realize that you are living in exile? But from your exile, Yah says, I will gather you and I will take you. In the middle of being driven and scattered and gathered and taken is the act of you and I doing a couple of things. Number one, realizing that we are actually in exile. Now, how do we come to this conclusion? Many of you have written to me and described your current journey, how that you were awakened, stirred, brought to questions that didn't have answers, that your leadership and wherever it was that you were, maybe still are, they struggled to answer. Dissatisfied with that, you begin to search on your own. You begin to pray. You were led by the Spirit. Some of you have come out of those places. Some of you are still there and struggling to know what to do. And others of you are in between. You're going from one spot to the other, to the other, to the other, looking for what is missing. Stay on your journey, ever how it is that you are at the moment. Stay on your journey. Because this is a Yah thing. You're not crazy. You're not nuts. You're not anti-church or anti-denomination or anti-whatever. You're searching, you're seeking. And again, this is the work of the Ruach HaKodesh. Matter of fact, at some point today, how about standing in front of the mirror, looking yourself deep in the eyes and reminding yourself or informing yourself, you are fulfillment of prophecy. This is a prophetic word that I've just read to you. Yah is prophesying and declaring to us what's going to happen. We have indeed been driven and scattered. Those in ancient Israel that refused to walk according to the Torah. Yah drove them out of the land, and then he scattered them among the nations. Read the books of Hosea and Amos, and you will see that Yah knew intentionally what he was doing. Now, my ancestors came to America from Europe with the Winthrop fleet in 1630. So my family has been here for almost 400 years. On my mom's side of the family, it's about the same time frame in the Jamestown settlements area of Virginia. So we've been here a very, very long time. And in that course of time, we have just come to see ourselves as your status quo Americans. Well, the reality is, whether I can connect the dots back to a Hebrew lineage or not, I'm at least adopted into that. And the Spirit has so identified that in me that I'm beginning to realize that while America is somewhat yet a great country and a wonderful place to live, it is actually a land of exile. And To that degree, then, I am in a form of captivity in that I can't get back home to where my ancestral heart belongs, the land of Israel. It's not open to me yet. Messiah has not come and gathered and taken me there yet. But the end result of studying the Torah is that it develops a strong identity with the land and a realization that we belong there. So our minds have become open to the reality of truth. That is, a truth about who we are and our real identity. And again, you may not be able to trace anything back to a Hebrew lineage or a Jewish lineage or anything of that sort. It doesn't matter. We are, at least in Messiah, adopted into this Hebrew Am Israel, people of Israel, covenant family. We're grafted into the olive tree, according to Romans 11. We are included. We're those that Jeremiah 31 describes as having the new covenant inscribed upon our hearts, and it's brought about a mind change. So as I study the Torah, as I look at these beautiful pages, it is awakening in me a realization, number one, of who I am, but number two, where I belong. And an understanding that Yah is turning my heart back. Now notice the verbiage of what's being used. Number one, he says that I am driving you out, and number two, I'm scattering you. On the other hand, he says, I am gathering you and I am taking you. In between is this action that I choose. I turn my heart back to him. I begin to realize that I have erred, that my forefathers have walked away from his commands, and now it's up to me and my generation to turn that lineage back to where it belongs, to walk in obedience to his word. When I do that, Yah says, I will turn my heart back to you. So if I turn to him, he turns to me, not in wrath and judgment, but in favor and benefit and in drawing. So we make teshuvah, the word teshuvah coming from the root word shub, S-H-O-O-B, meaning to turn and then return. It's not that we just face a different direction, but we begin to move in that different direction. My friend, when we turn our hearts toward him and away from the things that are culturally acceptable, the way that we just live as Americans, and we start looking at the word and lining up our lives with that, as I turn and start in those steps toward him, he will then empower me with his grace and his mercy. He reaches out like a parent to a young child learning to walk and take their first steps, and aids and empowers and enables me to come on and go further with him. So this idea that you are now an oddball with your family, your friends, your former friends and peers look at you and wonder if you've lost your mind. Now, you're fulfilling prophecy. This result of being turned to him in his word is the first steps in the regathering and the relocating back to Israel. Not just the little tiny sliver of the country that we see as sovereign state of Israel. But Abraham was promised that the borders would be from the river of Nitzavim, or Egypt, we suppose the Nile River, to the Euphrates, a large, large piece of land. And Yah fully intends for us to fill it to the full. The understanding is then that we need to expect an exodus, a regathering, a returning that will cause the original exodus out of Mitzrayim to fail in comparison. Read Yirmiyahu, chapter number 23. Yah's got something up his sleeve. Yah is up to something. He's doing a work in us. He's doing a work in you to prepare you. Every step that you take in honorable obedience to him and his word is preparing your heart for a move that is beyond belief. Get excited about that. I know the world's full of bad news, but be excited about what the Father is doing and doing right now in us. Be encouraged. Keep walking in obedience. Stay on your journey, and we'll be in the kingdom together. Until tomorrow, shalom.